Thank you, Shav. That's such a kind introduction, and I am so over the moon about actually coming here and being able to get back to talking about environmental work and environmental reps for a little while. And I've been asked to talk to you specifically about the role of the Green Rep. So I'll just dive straight into that because I know we're running short for time. The first thing really to say is that it's a huge role, actually. You know, when you really get into there is so much that you can be doing. It can range from everything from raising awareness of environmental issues in the workplace right through to negotiating to your employer on things like their emission targets, and actually hopefully those targets are set jointly, not just by the employer but with the union on board there and negotiating around them. So I thought I can't emphasize enough actually how brilliant the toolkit is. So really take a look at that and download that, and it's got a pretty good section on the role of the Green Rep. It covers pretty much everything. So I thought, oh, you've got that there, what can I do? What I'll do is I'll tell you about a project that I worked with, and I think that the kind of role that the reps take on will sort of come out of just talking about that project, really. It's an old project. I make no excuses for that, actually, because it's one of the rare projects where the TUC actually revisited it a few years down the line to see how it was getting on. And I think it's also a good example of what can go right and what can go wrong. As Shav said, we don't need to reinvent the wheel on this. There are thousands of projects that have been out there, varying in scale from small projects to, you know, much larger ones that had money and funding thrown at them. But we've done this before, and we really need to take the opportunity to learn from the lessons because we're running out of time, and we really need to get stuck in. So this project, quite fitting for the climate that we find ourselves in at the moment, is in a hospital. And I have to say that I don't know whether this project is still up and running now. So let's just look at this sort of a spotlight in time and see what we can find from it. The project is Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children in London. And it started, and I guess I'm going to try and include as many top tips as I can this afternoon. And my first top tip was that we got all the unions in the hospital involved in the project. Now that's useful because employers tend to feel less threatened if they know that all the unions in a workplace are involved. I know that's easier said than done, but if you can get that, that's great. Even if it's just using all the union logos, it's no different really in some respects to how you would negotiate on anything else. You would want to perhaps approach the employer in a joint way and try and show that, you know, you're keen to work together on environmental issues in the workplace. We also, next top tip, is we got the chief executive of the NHS Trust involved. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have senior buy-in from a senior manager. You need that kind of sponsorship. And if you can find somebody in your workplace who actually depends on you doing well for their performance targets, maybe the energy manager, the finance director, these sort of people, get them involved right at the start, get them to back the project and depend on you doing well. We held an event at the hospital. It was only a small scale event, just in the cafeteria, but we made it bigger by making the presence of the whole day across the hospital. So for instance, when you walked in through the threshold, you saw all the screens in reception were covered in, you know, Green Day screens with union logo. So not only were the staff aware of it, but families, patients coming in for the day had an inkling that there was something going on, that it was an event and it was about environmental issues. So you're already raising awareness. We then surveyed the staff. I think we had several hundred staff who responded to the survey. Over 90% said they wanted to be active on environmental issues. Now that's really useful. Surveys are really useful because they give you a mandate to go to the employer. You know, you can go and approach the employer and say, look, people are really interested in this. We're really keen to work with this. What are you up to? Questions, you're going to be so full of questions. You're going to want to know, you know, what their action plan is, What are their carbon emissions? What are their targets? Do they have legal requirements? Are they hitting them? How can you help? But the crucial thing is that it's not that you're there to do their work for them. It's that you're there to work together on it and to make sure, by there being a union presence, that there is union consultation, because environmental issues are going to impact on every single workplace and on every aspect of work. And we need to be in there in the conversation, negotiating with the employers on it. So we held 2 days of training. It went really well. Because we had that chief exec buy-in, we were able to set up an environmental committee really quickly, and we got facility time for all the reps involved. Another top tip I would say is get as many people from across very many different departments or aspects of your workplace in that committee. And that's because everybody brings a different piece of expertise with them. So in the hospital, we had representatives from medical wards, from theatres, from the finance, from IT, hospital porters. You also need people who are there when the lights are turned off or at the end of the day, because they see ways that energy might be being wasted that other people don't see. So involve everybody and give everybody an equal footing. One Welsh trade union rep I knew who worked for my Gore Brewery in Wales, which is a fabulous project. I'd love to tell you about that, but we don't have the time, unfortunately. But he always said, with every new pair of hands that comes to the project comes a new fresh brain. And if somebody gives you an idea and it's not a very good one and it doesn't work, don't put them off. Encourage them to come back with another idea. And it might just be the idea that makes a massive impact on your workplace and reduces energy, as it did with his project. In the hospital, they designed their own environmental audits. They started small, and I would emphasize that as well. Start small, choose a project that is an easy win-win. You want to convince management that it's a really good thing to have the union on board. So we aimed for, to begin with, just paperless meetings. Actually, that's quite a big project, but we chose it on just a few committees and then expanded it. Now, as the project, as the TUC left the project, there were lots of things that happened. There were lots of changes in personnel on the management side and on the union side. So my really good piece of advice is to give your project longevity and sustainability, because I think it probably did fall by the wayside a little, because one of the really supportive managers left and the branch secretary had left due to redundancies and cuts. So make sure you've got an environment agreement, because it means when somebody new comes in, you can pull them back to the table and say, look, we've got this agreement, it's been signed, we still want to work with you. Share your knowledge, make sure you've got plenty of union reps who know what's going on, so that you can pass that information down the line. I've got lots more to tell you, but I'm going to stop there because I know we're running short of time. But just to say that that hospital did end up significantly reducing its carbon emissions by a hospital refit and a new power supply, and it ended up not actually having to import any energy itself as well. So it was a really positive story, but I hope I can tell you more about more projects in the Q&A session, which I'm looking forward to and happy to take your questions.